Hi, I'm Cindy Crandall, Functional Medicine RN and owner of Nuview Nutrition. Welcome back to Smart Ways to Live Well with Nuview Nutrition. Today we're going to talk with Paula and we're going to discuss endometriosis. Endometriosis is often a painful disorder in which tissues that normally line the inside of the uterus grows outside the uterus. Endometriosis most commonly involves your ovaries, fallopian tubes, and the tissues lining the pelvis area. Rarely, endometriosis tissue can spread beyond the pelvic organs, but we've seen it in several cases where it's these tissues are attached to the bowel and just complicate the whole inside, and it causes a lot of pain. With endometriosis, displaced endometrial tissue continues to act as it normally would. It thickens, it breaks down, and bleeds with each menstrual cycle. Because of this displaced tissue, it has no way to exit your body, so it becomes trapped. When endometriosis involves the ovaries, cysts can develop called endometriomas, and they may form. The surrounding tissues can become irritated, eventually developing scar tissue and adhesions. Abnormal bands of fibrous tissues that can cause pelvic tissues and organs to stick together. Endometriosis can cause severe debilitating pain, especially during your period. Fertility problems also may develop, and fortunately, effective treatments are now available. Hi Paula, how are you today?
Fine, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being here today to share your story.
Well, thank you for having me.
Paula is actually going to share with us her battle or struggle with endometriosis, and so I'll let you take it from here.
Well, I've had endometriosis obviously for a very long time. It actually had infertility issues with it, and I've always had pain. In fact, to a point where if I would drive my convertible or I would walk too much, I would literally just collapse on the floor. And my OBGYN had sent me to a neurologist, and we thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be back problems and back surgery. And he said, no, I really wish I would love to have surgery on you. That would be good money, but it's not that.
Wow.
And it found that it was actually endometriosis. My uterus was literally spackled to my back muscle walls. There were 20 spots, as well as to the bottom of my colon, to my ovaries, and just kind of like peppered all over the place. So
Wow.
I've had several laparoscopies, and even though they tell you that when you hit menopause that endometriosis backs off, it really kind of doesn't, and there's always some permanent damage, which will always inflame. So ibuprofen, Tylenol, things like that really don't help. And
Okay.
I was just ready to go to my OB and say, just take out my organs, I don't care. I can't stand the pain anymore. And she said, well, why don't we try nutrition first?
Because as I remember, it was really affecting your quality of life,
Yes.
even with your daughter. Mm-hmm. Because your daughter, as I recall, was very active.
Yes.
I dancer.
She's a figure skater.
Yes.
And so she would do a lot of figure skating, and for me to try and just keep up, to be able to take her to practices and things like that, or even just a competition, it was very fatiguing. I generally had just enough energy to basically make it to work, make it home, maybe make dinner, but I wouldn't even want to eat dinner because I'd just be so exhausted because of the pain and the inflammation.
So would you end up in bed early?
Oh, I'd be in bed by 7 p.m. every night, easily.
So there's not quality for you or your family?
No, not at all. The only thing I could pretty much do is, like I said, maybe make dinner, and everything else had to really fall on them.
Yeah, because you work a job.
Yes.
So
yeah.
you had to
I
get
work
through the
full-time.
day.
Yes, and I work in a laboratory, so it's not like I'm sitting at a desk all day. I have to move. I have to be out with testing.
Oh, wow.
And it really doesn't help if I literally can't walk and I can't, feel my leg.
No.
So
now, so once your doctor referred you to Nuview,
Mm-hmm.
tell the viewers how you got started and what you began noticing and how you started feeling.
Well, I noticed that as soon as you'd put me on, basically a low glycemic diet, and it seemed very restrictive, but even before the supplements, just with the food alone, within 48 hours, I felt better.
Wow,
I felt a huge difference.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it was a night and day thing. And then with the supplements added in, my activity level went through the moon. and I could do all these things. I could keep up with my daughter. We could and not only that, but then I could start taking things like figure skating, or I could basically go do more things.
Some of the activities with your daughter.
Exactly. I could do a lot more activities versus before, where I just didn't want to do anything and I would be in bed, even on the weekends. So there's definitely a lot more activity. I definitely don't have as much pain. I can feel the inflammation, and the biggest thing too is that I know what's going to trigger it. So I know what foods will trigger the inflammation. I also know how to mitigate the pain and how to kind of deal with it without having to take all of these things like, Tylenol, ibuprofen at large doses, which I was having to do before.
Right.
And I know I don't have to have surgery, and that is so much better, because especially for women and even going into menopause, the last thing you want to do is really kind of muck with your hormones.
Right. And now, with the pain medications too, when you're taking like anti-inflammatories all the time, it harms the gut. Mm-hmm. When you're taking Tylenol, it can harm the liver.
Yes.
So, now being off that and
mm-hmm.
then learning how to treat it naturally, because
yes.
you've learned through the process of you can identify when you
mm-hmm.
eat a food what the cause was to the inflammation, right?
Yes, and it's really funny. I've been on a thyroid medication, and I went to refill it again, and the pharmacy said, well, you can't refill it, you have to go see your doctor. And so I'm like, well, that seems strange, because I should, every 6 months. I usually see her 3 or 4 times a winter for antibiotics, right. Because I have other issues and conditions, so I have basically low immunity.
Right.
So I always have a sore throat, I always have bacteria infections, type of upper respiratory. And she remarked, I haven't seen you in 8 to 10 months.
Wow.
Because I haven't had to.
You've been healthier.
Yes, and in fact,
overall.
my doctor was the one who basically said, can she help you with there's spherocytosis? Can she help you with this? This is really fantastic. And I said, well, in my experiences, usually the medical profession is not as accepting. And she said, you can see the difference. Yeah. She said, there's no doubt about it. I want to do what's best for my patient, and you can tell and see the difference. And the data when she took all of my, my blood work just said I was so much better.
Good.
And she's like, you need to continue this, and you need to do this.
Did she recheck your thyroid?
Yes, she did.
Were you able to come down at all on the medication yet?
Right now I'm not down on it yet, only because we did a few more checks. I still have to get the blood work back. She had actually wanted to go ahead and pull me off.
Okay.
But then seeing you, you kind of helped guide to say, hey, wait a minute, let's take a look a little bit more in depth and see what else we can do. But definitely, I don't take it as much on a daily basis as I used to have to, and I don't feel as reliant on it, because I have so much more energy. I stay up till 10 o'clock at night now and go, oh my gosh, I should go to bed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember one of the visits you came in, your daughter had made a comment about how happy she was.
Yes.
I don't remember the comment exactly, but I remember it in the terms of wow, I have my mom back.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. It's like my mom's here.
Yeah. Enjoying life all over again.
Yeah, she doesn't have to, she would always worry about me. She'd always go, are you okay? And she doesn't have to do that anymore. And that's just a really wonderful feeling.
Good.
That she's not constantly worried about my health or me being down and out, or my husband having to worry.
And now you can even prepare meals for the family?
Yes, I can prepare meals for the family. I can basically spend time with them. We can pretty much keep up with other things. And in fact, I joined a women's club in Bloomfield Hills that I would have normally not even thought about. But I have energy and time to be able to do that. Yeah. And I'm going to start taking adult figure skating again.
That's
because
awesome.
I don't hurt. And that's the biggest thing. And I, for me, it's like you can feel the inflammation. I know one of the things I brought up, and it still strikes me, is to feel cold, because I didn't realize how much the inflammation
made you hot.
It made me just very warm. In fact, I was looking at pictures of myself back in 2000, and I could notice how, even though I was lighter in weight, my face was puffy.
Right.
Just really puffy.
You can see a big difference.
And that was a huge difference, is that I'm not as puffy, and I feel healthy.
And you actually aren't hot all the time.
No, I'm not hot all the time. I actually get cold. It feels really great. I feel normal, rather than, constantly feeling hot and just lethargic and not being able to walk around. And You know, I can actually do things and drive my convertible and not feel like I'm going to fall over.
And you've got your life back.
I do. I have
That's
my life
awesome.
back. Very
Well,
much so.
thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story so our viewers can, you know, maybe come in and get some help one day.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are struggling with endometriosis, and the problem is that people are just unaware that there's alternative ways that they can heal without taking all the pain medications.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And if you want more information or you're interested, you can check out our website if you choose at www.nuviewnutrition.com. Thank you.
There's definitely a lot more activity. I don't have it. Definitely don't have as much pain. I can feel the inflammation, and the biggest thing too is that I know what's going to trigger it. So I know what foods will trigger the inflammation. I also know how to mitigate the pain and how to kind of deal with it without having to take all of these things like, you know, Tylenol, ibuprofen at large doses, which I was having to do before.
Right.
And I know I don't have to have surgery, and that is so much better because, especially for women and even going into menopause, the last thing you want to do is really kind of muck with your hormones.